Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm so glad you were able to join us today for our Dallas 2030 District yearly session on available programs and incentives for commercial real estate facilities. We do this every year with our members, the COG, and with Oncor. And, it's an update from 2022 to 2023 and all the different programs and incentives that are available from last year. And the updates on all of that for 2023 as well. Everybody here knows that the Dallas 2030 District is a market transformation nonprofit initiative, and we focus on creating this high performance, low emission building district here in Dallas. So just really excited for our members to be sharing and helping us get one step closer to our 2030 goals. So I've got Graham here from Oncor. I've got Mindy here from the COG, as well as Carly, and they're going to be doing presentations today. If you could please hold all your questions till the end of the session, and hopefully we can get to those as well. I'll provide contact information after the session, as well as links to the things that they're talking about. And if you'd like the PowerPoint presentation, I can send that over as well. But we're just really excited to get started here. And I'm going to hand it over to Carly to do a quick introduction and to get us started with this session. So Carly, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Salima. Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. My name is Carly Baylor. I am a communications supervisor in the transportation department at the North Central Texas Council of Governments. I've been working at COG just about 8 years now. I originally grew up in the Houston area, but moved up to DFW to go to school and have been living here just a little over 15 years. I manage our transportation department's community outreach and business relations initiatives, as well as oversee and manage all of our public involvement efforts. So I will toss it over to one of my program managers who's going to be presenting today as well. Her name is Mindy Mize. Mindy?
Thanks, Carly. As Carly mentioned, I'm Mindy Mize. I'm a program manager here with the North Central Texas Council of Governments. I've been here for over 23 years. I was born and raised, yes, in the city of Dallas. I know sometimes people say that and they mean in a suburb, but it was actually Dallas. I do live in Grapevine now, but I've been working with the Council of Governments since I graduated from what was once Southwest Texas State University, but now it's Texas State University. My background is in geography and planning, resource and environmental studies. But here at COG, I manage a communications team on transportation, education, and outreach. So we're really focused on campaigns, the development of campaigns, working very closely with Carly's side of the communications that does a lot more with public involvement and so forth. So we're excited to talk with you guys today. I'll send it back to Carly.
Thanks, Mindy. Salima, next slide, please. So this is just like a big picture agenda for the things that we're going to talk about today. I'll give everyone a high-level overview of who the COG is, and more specifically what we do in the transportation department. Then I'll go over several of our air quality programs and incentives, some really valuable information for you all for how you can get involved, and how they might be able to help you, including tools that might make your commute around Dallas and the region a little bit easier. And then for the second part of the presentation, Mindy will go into some details about our larger effort for the Transit COVID Recovery Campaign. So next slide, please. Okay, so who are we and what do we do? So the North Central Texas Council of Governments is the metropolitan planning organization for the Dallas-Fort Worth region. Our department, the transportation department, covers a 12-county region. The agency as a whole, we do have other departments, covers a 16-county region, but we only focus on those 12, and you can see the map here on the slide. We work on everything from roadways, bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, aviation education, automated vehicle deployment has been a pretty popular project in more recent years. We have a transit team. We work on safety, congestion management, air quality, you name it, we are probably involved in it to some degree. So we have what we call our Regional Transportation Council, or RTC for short. It's the transportation policy body. It is made up of 44 members. They include locally elected officials, including elected officials from the city of Dallas, as well as representatives from area transportation providers. So including the three transit agencies. Our partners include the Texas Department of Transportation, the North Texas Tollway Authority, again, the regional transit agencies, the federal government. Again, you name it, if it's related to transportation, they are probably a really great partner of ours. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to go into some information about our air quality programs and incentives and how they might be able to benefit you all. So the Dallas-Fort Worth Clean Cities Coalition, some of you may or may not have heard of this organization, but it was designated by the Department of Energy since 1995. It is part of the National Clean City Network with fellow coalitions across the country. So you can see the map here on the slide, and involves national laboratory support. So we have our more regional and local coalition, but it is a national effort. So the mission is to improve North Texas air quality through initiatives and partnerships that reduce transportation emissions, improve efficiency, and strengthen the local economy. So we have 3 key areas for that include fleet and driver guidance, as well as planning initiatives, and then infrastructure planning and readiness, and energy integration. So I'll go over these in a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides. Okay, so fleet, driver guidance, and planning. The goal for this particular initiative is to support transition to vehicles that use cleaner alternative fuels. This does include electric vehicles. You'll see here, this photo was actually taken at last year's National Drive Electric Week event. Our air quality team, in partnership with the communications staff for the past several years, has been hosting a really big event for National Drive Electric Week. It's a week long. It's all across the country. Obviously during the pandemic, we actually did a completely virtual event that was very successful as well. So key activities and strategies for this particular initiative: we host webinars, roundtables, we have other educational opportunities. Our National Drive Electric Week event is a great example of hosting local ride and drive events. You can actually see the link there. You can click on that and go, and it'll give you more information about National Drive Electric Week, past events that we've had, how you can get involved, etc. We promote incentives and assist with grant applications. I know there are ongoing incentives that we have for members of the general public, business owners like you all on the call today. The sky's really the limit with that. So the link is here on that slide. If you're interested in checking out more information about what incentives might be able to apply to you. And then we also really try to connect stakeholders with workforce development and training tools. So to really be that connection and kind of that go-between to help people achieve all of these goals that I'm mentioning here. Next slide, please. Okay, infrastructure planning and readiness. So the goal for this initiative is to increase equitable access to EV charging infrastructure. So the key activities and strategies for this initiative include supporting TxDOT's current Texas EV charging plan. And this includes promoting the grant program to install DC fast charging along designated corridors. We're helping to develop a list and a map of recommended sites within the NCTCOG area. Approximately 64.5 million is being designated to that effort. For the Texas EV charging plan specifically, I believe TxDOT is going to hold a competitive grant program. They have already identified locations where they would like to install stations. So they're primarily looking for applications for the grant for sites in and around those areas. And then what COG is really trying to help with is to create a map of recommendations on where we should be building more stations within our region. So we're just kind of at the beginning stages of that process now. And you can see here on the map kind of the different stages and where we are with certain corridors. We're planning level 2 community charging is what we're calling it, to fill in gaps and needs in workplaces, multifamily housing, Justice 40 communities. So again, trying to help provide resources and training in underserved areas of the communities in the region. And then we also support infrastructure development to serve medium and heavy duty fleets. One of our big emphasis areas for air quality is to try to transition heavy diesel vehicles and equipment to zero tailpipe emissions as much as possible. And those folks may need public infrastructure for those vehicles while they're out and about. They may need to recharge while they're on their routes before they can get back to home base. And more recently, our air quality team has finished a plan for infrastructure, EV, alternative fuel infrastructure along Interstate 45. So we are working on opportunities to try to implement that. Next slide, please. So this is a list of ways that you all can get involved or obtain more information. So we have access to a pretty cool interactive type map. You can see a screenshot of it here on the slide, the mysocialpinpoint.com. It shows current recommended charging sites on this interactive map. We have surveys. You can do staff interest for your company. If you own a business and installing charging stations on site, the link is there. There is a current incentive for that, a 30% tax credit and up to $100,000 per site. You can consider purchasing an electric vehicle if you don't have one already. There's another link there for some enhanced tax credits from Plug in America. And of course, there Feels like most of the time there are new incentive programs under development. So you can always go back and check all of these resources to see what's current. And then if you're interested in knowing more about the Clean Cities Coalition and how you or your company or your business can get involved, we've got the email down at the bottom there where you can sign up to stay informed. Next slide, please. Okay, so this, the Car Care Awareness Program is also managed by our air quality team, but the goals are a little bit different. Not different in the sense that this is implemented to also advance regional air quality benefits. It has a large educational component to it. So we're striving to educate vehicle owners and the general public about proper vehicle maintenance, significance of when the check engine light might go off in their vehicle, and what to do if it does go off. And then also how vehicle maintenance can not only help folks save money, but also improve on the daily to make sure our air quality in the region is clean. This program really focuses also on strengthening community partnerships. And it is aligned with April and October. We celebrate car care awareness during those months. So we try to align this program since it does have similar goals. Next slide, please. So a little bit about this campaign's history. We started, this was in association, if you all have ever heard of the Air Check Texas program, it was around for about 20 years. It was a vehicle repair and replacement program. In coinciding with that program, Car Care Awareness started with free public clinics at participating auto repair shops. So they were hosted at different repair shops around the region. They were open to the public, so folks could attend one that's closest to them, and it would provide them an opportunity to speak with a qualified technician about their check engine light if that was going off, and other vehicle concerns. It was completely free. We would be there, have a booth, have educational materials about air quality, improving that in the region, who we are, how we can help, tools to help educate folks on vehicle repair and maintenance. So since then, the Air Check Texas program, unfortunately, has not been around in a few years. It was a state-funded program. But current efforts now, we have really felt like there is still very much a need for folks to know about vehicle maintenance. And of course, we're always continuing to work on ways to improve air quality in the region. So now what we're doing with this program is partnering with nonprofit organizations, vehicle repair shops, chambers of commerce, all throughout the region to host clinics and workshops, host booths at community events, to just really get the word out there, connect with folks. We provide a digital toolkit with newsletter, social media content, moving graphics in April and October to local governments and community organizations, businesses, really anybody that's interested. It's at no cost. Again, to just help spread the word about what we're doing. I've enclosed the link to this project website here at the bottom. So if you all, since I'm sure you're very well connected in the Dallas community, if you all are interested in more information, or you know of a nonprofit or a repair shop, or really anybody who'd be interested in joining these efforts, you could feel free to contact me. And we can get you involved as much as you would like to be involved. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to go over a couple of tools to make commuting and transportation in Dallas and around the region a bit easier for you all. So we have a program. It's called the Try Parking It program, or TPI for short. Our department and our agency uses a lot of acronyms. Tryparkingit.com is a free rideshare and commute logging website and app. It assists commuters in finding and utilizing alternatives to driving alone. And in turn, this helps reduce traffic congestion. And again, it's another way to help improve regional air quality. It doesn't cost anything to download the app. You can find it in Google Play or the Apple Store. It has a lot of different really cool features. I know we have gotten some questions in the past. It does have a feature where it can provide like a carpool match for you and find someone who might live near you or might work in the same area. We have gotten some security questions in the past, rightfully so. You can go at your own pace, and it will not give away any personal information while you're trying to figure that out. And it does have a feature you can set it to for different preferences. You know, do you prefer to carpool with a non-smoker? There's a lot of different features in there. But the goal when you're doing the alternative commutes, whether it's carpooling, walking or biking to work, taking transit, public transportation, you're racking up points in the app, and it has a really cool feature where it'll show you, you know, all the points that you are earning, and it'll provide you with a report. And those points go towards rewards that are in the system, the Try Parking It program. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. Try Parking It in the past has done free tickets to Mavericks games. There's restaurants in there. I think there might even be things such as like a day at the spa, just some really, really cool partners that we have for this program. So I've included down here at the bottom for the website, tryparkingit.com, if you're interested in more information. Again, also, if you are interested, we work with a lot of businesses, corporations, to try to implement these in different company environments so that their employees can utilize this. So we do have staff who are dedicated to helping to set that up and be involved. We do a lot of outreach efforts at events with different companies. Right now we're looking as well to go to schools. We work with chambers of commerce. So if you're interested in becoming more a part of this, again, just let me know and we can get you connected with the right folks. Next slide, please. So I think I've pretty much mentioned all of this, but this is just kind of a high level summary of the program. The ride sharing component, finding your best match for a carpool or a van pool. You know, you can walk, bike, use transit, record everything. It's recording your commutes on the interactive trip calendar that I mentioned. It also tells you, this is a pretty cool feature, the money that you've saved and the emissions that you've reduced in the reports. And then, of course, everybody likes free stuff, right? The rewards. So for commutes logged, you receive those points that I was talking about to be used towards contests and purchasing some really cool prizes. Next slide, please. Okay, the Go Karma app is another free app. You can download it in Google Play or the Apple Store. It is I'll call it an app partner with Try Parking It. So the Go Karma app and the Try Parking It app are set up to talk to each other, if you will. It's just another way for you to track the money that you're saving, the emissions that you're reducing, and to make sure that you're earning rewards. So our RTC has a policy set in place to provide toll discounts for HOV vehicles on the Techspress or the managed lanes during the weekday peak periods. So that's going to be Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 9 a.m. and 3 to 6:30 p.m. So it's that prime time of day where folks are really commuting to and from work, or maybe they're, if they have kids, they're picking their kids up or dropping them off at school. So you can download the Go Karma app, and it makes it easier than ever to get a 50% discount on those Techspress lanes during that period when you are carpooling. It's a enhanced Bluetooth technology, so it automatically verifies you're part of a carpool. And the cool thing about it is once you download the app, and whoever your carpool buddy downloads it as well, you never need to open it again. It does all the work for you. So have the link again to our Go Karma website there. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check that out as well. Next slide, please. And now I'm going to hand it over to the lovely Mindy Mize, and she will provide you all with some information about our big transit COVID recovery campaign.
Before Mindy, you get started, I really wanted to emphasize, Carly's part of the presentation because, this is very beneficial for building owners and then for the different companies and their staff, as well as your tenants. So, sharing that information with your tenants in your different buildings, because I know there's a lot of building owners on here, may be an incentive for them, or it may be helpful to them, and it helps us get one step closer to our 2030 goals. So I'm really glad that you shared some of those additional programs, as well as some of the incentives out there and upcoming programs for building owners and managers. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mindy now.
Thank you. Yes, you're 100% correct. And then kind of touching on this too, this is a really good for our transit COVID recovery campaign effort that you can also kind of highlight in the same way with the same groups that you were speaking about, Lima. So everyone obviously knows transit, the impacts of COVID to just our whole economy and everything else in the region. I don't want to get too much into that, but it definitely impacted transportation overall. And one of the areas hardest hit was the transit sector. Obviously, since in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a lot of those who use our transit services are primarily commuters. And then also for special events, and a lot of our special events were obviously canceled as well. So we are trying to do, as the Regional Transportation Council that Carly mentioned previously, what we can to support our three major transit providers: Dallas Area Rapid Transit, Denton County Transportation Authority, and Trinity Metro in Fort Worth, to help them recover that ridership. So next slide, please. The good news is, since I'm coming to you in 2023 versus a year ago even, is we're starting to see that increase in ridership again. A lot of it came, we had so many starts and stops with COVID. And I think what we're coming to in just the world of business and working is seeing a lot of hybrid workers now versus fully coming back to the office 5 days a week. Now, I know a lot of companies have, but a lot of us, including the Council of Governments, we're down to in the office 2 days a week at a minimum. Some other places maybe 4. So here on the screen, you can see the 2022 Q3 ridership by the different transportation agencies I mentioned previously. We track that as an agency. Obviously, it's broken down by bus and rail. You'll see a little note under DART with rail that the Trinity Railway Express data, or TRE, is captured there, but it's jointly operated with Trinity Metro out of Fort Worth. So that's just a little snapshot. When I was previously giving this presentation, I think back in the early spring, the bus number for DART, for instance, was at 4.9. So you can see we're definitely seeing some benefits, like things are starting to go up again. So next slide, please. Okay, just so you know what Council of Governments does related to transportation in transit. We have a lot of transit studies that are completed in progress. You know, we look at implementation strategies, we review options, we've tried to help groups find funding for transportation. As I mentioned before, we also try to prioritize all that and come up with a comprehensive approach to planning and implementing transit services for the groups are outside of our transit authority services areas. And so down below is just a list of some completed in progress transit studies currently. And then you can also go to our website, nctcog.org/transit studies, to find more project information. So next slide, please. Okay, so projected population growth. I think this is an important reminder for all of us here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I know we're really focused on Dallas, but it's just a good reminder. This table shows estimated population growth. So where we are in 2023 with about 8.1 million people in that area, that map that Carly showed you before on an early slide. And in about 20 plus years, we're going to estimate to be at 11.4. A large part of the proportion of the region's population lives outside existing public transportation service areas. So our team here at the Council of Governments is always looking at, you know, what they can do. And just as a little note, the categories with authorities, you can see right now, 46% of the population lives inside areas with authorities, transportation authorities, 54 out, but it's just going to continue to grow kind of outside that area. So authorities are where they fall under like DART, DCTA, Trinity Metro. You have all the transit services you could ever want, including on-demand and paratransit, rail and bus. And then when you look down at developing, that is groups that refer to non-member cities. They're not part of a transit group, but are a transit service area. A couple maybe are part of like things like TexRail cities, but they're not within a transit service area, as I said, but they may offer on-demand rideshare services like microtransit. It's a big word you guys may be hearing more and more. They're open to the general public. And then when we talk about, which is not on here, limited, they basically offer limited public transportation services, but it's going to be specialized groups. So it's maybe based on income or age, maybe if there's a disability associated. So those are just some of the things that the Council of Governments is trying to solve when it comes to transit. So let's move on to the next slide. So with our transit COVID recovery campaign, what we wanted to do was how do we get the public back into transit again and feeling good. So we started this in 2020 or 2000, about this time of year, almost 3 years ago. And we worked together on some different phases and tactics within those phases to get the general public, commuters, so forth, back into transit. So one area was to grow consumer confidence. I think this will make a lot of sense to you guys. We came up with a lot of branded elements. We developed, that really focused on the health and the safety part of health protocols that all the transits were doing to keep riders and their employees safe. We also developed a toolkit, so groups like yourselves, other local cities and counties that maybe are in transit service areas, for the majority of you all, probably DART, that you can share this information with your employees, with the groups that are maybe inside your, that use your buildings, that they could have this information as well. We have social media graphics, flyers, posters, etc. It's all on this portal here, which is nctcog.org/transit recovery. And we gave money to DART, DCTA, and Trinity Metro to do some of their own advertising campaigns as well. And then we did an advertising campaign for the 3 agencies, where we incorporated what are basically spokespeople, or sometimes the hip terms, or influencers, to media personalities to help us establish trust that the transit agencies are really doing all they can to make riders safe. And they did a lot of stuff for us on social media and radio and video. And we'll get into that in a minute. So next slide. So this is just some examples of our growing consumer confidence toolkit items. Things were in English and Spanish. Like I said, it was a lot of masking photos, being safe, reminding people what to do when they get on transit, so forth. But obviously we've kind of moved away from that, but this was just the first phase. So I wanted to show that. So next slide. These are our radio influencers. We did stuff with iHeartMedia with KISS, 106.1 FM, and then also the Ernie Brown Show on Cliff on AM, as well as the Ticket with Jake Kemp too. And as I mentioned, they did social media for us, videos, radio. It was really nice. And each month was focused on a different transit authority. So we did it over a 3-month period. So next slide. Okay, so phase 2 is kind of what we're in now. This is where we're promoting 2 of our other 4 tactics. So the first 4 were the influencers and the consumer, making sure consumers felt safe. Obviously, that consumer safety health message is continuing to ongo, but there is some like mask fatigue and things like that. I know we're all tired of hearing these words, but we're just promoting here that transit is your friend, that transit's always been there for you, and it's there for you when you're ready to go back, especially with the hybrid schedules and with some headquarters delaying or coming back with when they were going to have people return. And then when folks start returning because of hybrid schedules, or maybe some businesses weren't back in yet, their commute was easier. It was easier for them when they're in downtown Dallas to find parking, which wasn't always the case before, those types of things. So maybe they went back on habits like taking their own vehicle. Well, our congestion levels are back up. Our roadway transportation rose a lot faster than transit was the slowest to come back up. So we want people out there to understand the benefits of using transit. Obviously, with the gas prices, we were focusing on that a lot about this time last year and into the bulk of this last 12 months. Reducing stress. Transit's a great stress reliever because you're not having to drive and fight the traffic yourself. You can be working, you can read, you can visit with a friend. So we updated our materials and creative, and it's out there, and we're putting some new stuff up on the portal. Again, it's going to be all translated into Spanish. We're also looking to translate it into Vietnamese as well. And then we also started doing a ridership demand event to try to get people excited about using transit. And we did that in conjunction with our Air North Texas program, which is a campaign to just support improving air quality. Everyone can do simple things to improve air quality. Do it with our Clean Air Action Day that takes place in the summer. Last year it was on August 3rd. So we did some stuff with our transits there. And then we're also targeting some new riders and just riders who maybe transit passes have lapsed, or companies who passes have lapsed, because you can get passes for your company. There's tax incentives, all sorts of things that you can do. So trying to have that communication with the business community as well. Next slide. This is just a timeline of where we've been. Really, the focus is kind of on the last 2 dots on this timeline, that in the winter and spring, the transit started that advertising. They had their money to do their campaigns. They're actually going to get some extra money from us. I'll get into that in a minute. And then this past summer, Carly and I have been doing a lot of presentations like we're doing for you today, to talk to the business community, chambers, local governments, et cetera, about this campaign and how to get involved, basically by sharing the messages that we've created and letting folks know that the transits are out there for them. And we also had our Clean Air Action Day too. Next slide. Okay, so what we've done, I mentioned these are some of the events that we've been to under this first bullet the past few months. We also did the Clean Air Action Day on August 3rd. Our transits did different things like if you shared photos, you could win a staycation in Dallas. Trinity Metro handed out little seed packets with flowers in certain areas to promote the messaging of the transit campaign. DCTA was also promoting it as well. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to do some new paid education initiatives. So the transits each got an extra $100,000 for us that they're pushing out now, or will be shortly, depending on where they are. Dallas is pretty much done with their side, or DART, I should say, to promote just their services, other things they have, just kind of give them the extra oomph in their advertising budgets. And then we ourselves are going to be doing a new campaign, probably starting in the March, April timeframe, focused on limited English populations, Spanish and Vietnamese primarily, maybe some Korean, as well as a community up in DCTA's area that's a refugee community, making sure that they know that the transit services are there for them. Next slide. So what we knew, kind of one of the big takeaways here is we really want people, when they're ready to reconnect with what they need, love, what they want to achieve, that public transportation is there for them. COG and transit staff need to help aid in the COVID recovery by spreading the word. So we also need y'all. So we need your help to spread the word out there that transit is safe if people still have concerns about public health safety when they get on the transits, but also that all the different services that each transit partner has to offer, things from Go Pass to transit benefits to passes that you can give to, or sell to business partners that they can give their employees. Obviously, from a sustainability line, transit helps improve air quality because we're reducing congestion. A lot of the vehicles that are used are alternative fuel or clean technology vehicles in some sort. And then obviously where we're trying to build a lot of our new, companies and so forth, we're trying to, there's a desire to build them around transit services, so you can, have all sorts of great things to offer employees or businesses that are going to come work in one of your buildings. So that is what we need your help. You can go to the website, nctcog.org/transit recovery, to get everything from little videos to social media, messaging, graphics, press release or article content for newsletters, etc. Next slide. This is Carly's and my contact information. We're happy to take it. I think Salima, you asked to take questions at the end. I don't know if you want me to get into more takeaways now, or we can wait after Graham goes too.
Oh, I think we're a little above time. So let's go ahead with Graham, and then we can circle back with you towards the end of the conversation on your takeaways and any questions they may have for you. And I'm going to provide all contact information. So if you don't get it now, I'll send it through an email as well. So I want to take a moment and introduce Graham, and he can start his portion of this presentation.
Thanks, Salima. My name is Graham Thurman, and I'm the commercial inspector for the Oncor programs. And so my job is, basically to do the pre and post inspections required to verify that we pay the correct amounts on all the commercial projects we take. I love my job. It's a different challenge every day with the different types of projects we have. I'd say about 90% of our projects are lighting, but we do have lots of other measures. And I think part of it is just people don't know about them. And so if you see something on here that looks like it applies to your building or to your industry, feel free to reach out, and we'd love to either help connect you with someone who can do it, or to have you participate in our program. You can go to the next slide. And so we had a kickoff in mid-December that had a larger version of the slides I'm presenting today. It was targeted more for our service providers, which a service provider is like a company that signs up to represent the project. Many times that's not the customer. The customer just wants their new equipment. And so the service providers that are signed up in our company, they have to have certain qualifications to execute and represent us and the measures, whether it be lighting or cooling or whatever the incentive is being offered. And so, I guess that kickoff was targeted more towards helping them understand how to get signed up and how to participate. This is a little bit more scaled down, and this is a little bit more targeted towards building owners and customers, and just showing you what we have available. And as always, there'll be information of the program managers on the last slide, and they can help you, or I can help you, if you have a specific question or project. And our job is to help you, get the project in our program, be successful, and continue to use our program with future projects. Last year we paid about 7.5 million. I believe we had over 300 projects that were completed. We had 1.2 million of projects that we've pre-inspected last year but haven't finished, and so we'll be paying those this year. But in total, our budget went up, and we're going to hopefully pay out 8.4 million this year. And so, it's lots of money available. So bring us your projects, and it should be a successful year. And you can go to the next slide, Selena. And so this is, a lot of this is just information on how to get signed up and where to find our information. The program opened in mid-December, and it's retrofit projects. As always, they require both a pre-inspection and a post-inspection. We do pay on new construction lighting and cooling and motors, and there's a few other things when it comes to kitchen equipment and ice machines and things like that. But on new construction, obviously, it just requires a post-inspection at the end of the project. Either way, we need the project in our system ahead of time to be able to provide us what we need to show that we were, somewhat involved in the project and not paying on something that was already complete. Next slide. And so this is a little bit of a map of kind of what happens. And so all of our energy efficiency stuff is housed on it's EEPM, which stands for Energy Efficiency Program Manager.oncor.com. And so that's where you can find all of our energy efficiency programs information for commercial or residential. And so, if someone was interested in becoming a service provider, several of you on the call, I think, are, but if you're interested, you would go there and you would fill out an umbrella contract, and then that sort of gets the process started. And so there's some back and forth between us signing it and you signing it, and then you applying for the particular program you want to apply for, whether it be lighting or cooling or both, or lots of our other measures. We also have a solar program. I'm not presenting anything on that on the call, but if you have questions on that, you certainly can contact me or one of the program managers, and we can get you in touch with the solar program manager. And then also we have a help desk. That number will be on one of my future slides, but the help desk is good at helping you get signed up, get your username, and navigate our site. Next. And so on our EEPM site, we have our program manuals. We have our technical resource manual, which is kind of our rule book of what we can offer and how the calculations are done in some cases, and sort of it's the guidelines we have to follow. So, at the end of the year, when we get audited by the Utility Commission's third-party auditor, they ask me to turn over a list of projects. I have to turn that over, all the information I've collected to prove the savings down to the exact penny, and all that has to follow what's in the technical resource manual. And so that's sort of how we get graded and audited and make sure that we're following the rules that they've set out for us. Next slide. And so, our most popular measure is lighting. We see a lot of HID and fluorescent lighting obviously being changed to LEDs. This is the sort of how it's calculated. It's a one-time payment. Screw-in lighting is paid at a 9-year measure life, and so that's a one-time payment of $146 per kW saved, and that's per our calculator on what we're able to pay, which is based on the building type and several other conditions, whether there's conditioning in the building and so forth. But we pay on both indoor and outdoor lighting, and so as you can see, fixtures are paid at a 15-year measure life, so they get paid at a higher rate per kW and per kWh. We do pay on tube LEDs, but only the Type C that have a driver, and so we pay that as $6 a fixture. You can go to the next slide. And then we also have some of our air conditioning that we pay on. We're seeing more and more variable refrigerant flow. It's really simple. The air conditioning is really simple. It's all done. Basically I can do that as a desk review. We need pictures, good pictures, profile of your equipment and the nameplates, both pre and post to show what was there and what you've installed. As always, we need that before your project starts. We're not allowed to pay if you've already started, but you know, feel free to always reach out to us. The earlier the better, and we can help you understand, you know, what needs to happen and which you might be eligible for. We pay on a lot of chillers, and I'm sure many of your buildings, you know, that's what your cooling equipment is, and so chillers. But we also pay on geothermal, water cooled DX, and you know, then we're seeing a lot of variable frequency drives getting put on air handler motors and cooling tower motors. And that's good. We have really good incentives for that. And it's in the last 2 years, it's gotten a lot easier. Previously, that was something that had to be measured and verified. And now we have that as a deemed measure. And so it's fairly simple through pictures, just to document that there was no controls on the motor to begin with. And then you put your variable frequency drive on there. And so we sort of have some set amounts, but to me, that's a very successful and you know, a project that we see people that get good paybacks, and I'd highly recommend that if you're in the business of providing that service, or if you're needing that service, definitely talk to us and we can help you understand how to use that measure. Next slide. And so on this, these are some new measures that we added last year, and they haven't really had as much traction as we had hoped yet. And I think part of it is just you know, a lot of our audience at the kickoff is more lighting and cooling. And so I think it's more getting the word out. So obviously, if any of you know persons selling this or distributing this type of equipment, please let them know to contact us. And we certainly can try and help them realize how easy these new measures are. And so everything on the list here, you know, is something that we, you know, inspection wise can pretty much do over pictures almost, pre and post. And so a lot of this stuff is, you know, commercial pool pumps. You know, I'm sure there's distributors here in town that are doing that, you know, at a lot of these high-rise buildings and places that have, you know, pools, whether it be natatoriums or hotels, and so, or Lifetime Fitness type projects. And so we're hoping that we'll get some participation there. You know, some of this hotels and colleges and different places that have ice machines, or even restaurants, commercial ice machines, we're able to pay on that now. It's very simple. You know, just 2 or 3 pictures and a you know, certificate off the Energy Star site, and you know, you can get, you know, a decent incentive off that depending on, you know, what kind of batch size and how your ice machine operates. And then some of these others, you know, crack units, the installation of crack units in data centers, all these things on the list, we're hoping, you know, to take off and get better participation on. So if you see anything on here that pertains to you, feel free to reach out, and you know, we'd be happy to try and help you participate. Next slide. And so my you know, kind of where most of my background is on the inspections, and so some of this is going to be targeted more towards, you know, what's required. We've tried to make it easier. You know, before COVID, all of our inspections had to be done. You know, we had to look at this stuff the day of, and so we had to have lifts and ladders to go up and for your service provider, whoever's representing your project, to prove to me or one of my inspectors what's there, you know, and so a lot of time was spent going up on lifts with your service providers pulling lamps down and pulling fixtures down to show me, you know, what the wattages were, and so we could verify that. And we've tried to make it easier to where if your provider can get good pictures, and when I say your provider, you know, obviously it can be you if you're representing your project. I feel like for lighting projects, though, most times you know, many of you are the customer, and so you just want your new lights, and you might not be the expert on what's happening. And for our program, we need it audited room by room with, you know, details of, you know, is there a control in this room? Is there cooling? How many fixtures? What fixture types? What wattages? And so a lot of times, from what I see, you know, people that have success, I'd highly recommend a lot of times on lighting projects, if you would, you know, leave that to your lighting contractor, or, you know, the expert in whoever's going to do your lighting job. Most of the time we see them as the ones who are most successful in navigating what's required for lighting, but also for getting the maximum incentive. Now, if you have a maintenance staff, or you have people that are qualified to do this and are willing to do this, I'm not trying to discourage that, but lighting is the one measure that I feel like is a little bit more complicated, and you know, and that's why we have our service providers who are, you know, signed up with the qualifications to excel But these are some of the things that are needed, and again, so we made it a little bit easier if they can come through and document the fixtures and the wattages, of each type, and sort of give us a good overview of the facility. Then when we come in there for the inspection, we're not having to go up on ladders to verify what fixtures are. We already are in agreement of what's there and what the wattages are. And that all factors into the calculation and what we're able to pay. But as for the pre-inspection, we'll need good photos, and then obviously room by room counts with keeping in mind if there's existing controls. All that needs to be taken into account because all that factors into how much we can pay. And it basically sets the project baseline. And as always, do not start removing fixtures or start work before we approve your pre-inspection. That's one of our main rules and guidelines. And so I always recommend to people, get this done. The earlier the better. We want to be out of your way. We want you to be able to start your project and be successful. And so the people that contact us early and get the pre-inspections done ahead of time, they're successful. And obviously we can help make suggestions or guide them to be successful. But it's the people that call us and say, hey, we're starting work in 2 days. Can we get an inspection? Most of the time that's not going to work out well because often they don't even have a project in our system. And so I don't even have any purview to it. But even if I did, many times there's some changes we need made or more information we need, or I don't have an inspector that's available to get out there in 2 days. So, just the more lead time you can, provide for a lighting project or any project, the more we're able to help and accommodate, maybe the situation that you have. Next slide. And so for the post-inspection, it's similar in that, in fact, I think it's almost easier because usually there's not as much of a hodgepodge of light fixtures. Sometimes you have CFLs and incandescents, and or if you have a warehouse, you've got metal halides and fluorescents mixed in there as your maintenance has changed them out throughout the years. And so in a pre-inspection, you're trying to verify what each of those different wattages is, and it's not standard, but it seems like, most of the time when you come through with your new LEDs, you go with something consistent and standardize it. So usually from my experience on the post-inspection, there's less fixtures to verify. But as I said previously, before COVID, we would have had to go up on a lift or ladders at the inspection the day of, and you guys, your provider would have to get us pictures of the nameplate that's on the back of each different LED type, whether it was in the ceiling or up, in the rafters or whatever. Now we've tried to make it easier. Not everybody's taking advantage of this, but if you can take your pictures as the install is going on, as each LED type is coming out of the box, and get the picture of the nameplate with the model number on the back of the fixture, or if you're not there, have your project manager or whoever's on site do that, and send them to you while they're there on site. Then you have those pictures in the folder, and when it's time to submit the post inspection, you can submit those, and then that cuts down us having to go up on ladders and lifts during the inspection. And it could be just simply us coming through to make sure that, everything was changed out, as you said, as you're reporting in our, in the scope of your project that's in our system. And it makes the inspection go a lot quicker, and it's less invasive. So we always try and make that recommendation. And obviously, if you have upcoming projects or projects this year, reach out to us and we'll give you that suggestion. But many of our service providers are doing that. And I think we've made it, more friendly in that if they can do that during their install instead of having to do it during the inspection when the fixtures are mounted. Next slide. And so this is just some guidance on, service provider inspection contact. This is more targeted towards service providers, but, we see a lot of the people from out of state, especially, and they're not as successful because of this. They don't want to come to the inspection and represent their project. They'll try and put us with the customer or with somebody who isn't familiar with the project. And so that leads to lots of problems and frustration. And, the customer is also our customer. And so we don't like seeing that. Many times it doesn't get explained, but that's if a certain company is supposed to be representing your project, and all of a sudden you get told that you've got to meet me. And so I show up and I start asking you where this is or what this is. A lot of times if you're just the customer that wanted new lights, it's not your job to know a lot of this information and so again, local companies, we don't, we see they're a lot more successful because they're they're here, they're on the site, and they're the expert on their project, and so the inspections seem to go really well. And but this is just more guidance to service providers that, you know, you need to have someone, if you're representing the project and you're signed up in the system, you know, it needs to be someone from your company that's going to be meeting us at the inspection and the expert on the project. Next slide. And so this is again more, this would be more pertinent to before COVID. We still do have some providers that want to verify fixtures with us the day of the inspection. And so if they specify that and they're willing to do that, we do that. It's not our preference, but you know, when that's the case, they'll show up with ladders and lifts. You know, so if we're talking about a parking lot, you know, they'll show up with a lift or a bucket truck, and they'll pull down lamps for us to prove what's in the fixtures. And so, like I said, that's not our preference because it takes more time, and it's doing it the day of the inspection. But you know, we do have some people that do want to do that. But a lot of this has been alleviated by the providers that are taking advantage of getting the good photos and documenting the fixtures during their walkthroughs or on their own time, and then submitting that in a PDF or, you know, a concise document that has all that and is labeled to represent the project they've submitted in our system. Next slide. And so here's, you know, this is facility maps and drawings. This isn't anything that's required, but it's, you know, it's helpful sometimes if there's a project that's confusing. Again, this is more targeted towards our service providers who are submitting projects for lighting. But, you know, I think a lot of times people will get a fire map or something of a building that lists room by room. And so sometimes the room numbers are on there and they'll call it that. Other times, if room numbers aren't on there, they'll use that to you know, to name rooms, whatever they want to name them. And you know, as long as they call that in the project, you know, when I ask to see that room, you know, it's like, it's pretty simple on what's what, because they've got a map that shows that. And so they're able to find it and be the expert on it. But this isn't anything that's required. It's more guidance for a person who wants to be a provider and is trying to be successful. Next slide. And this is some more guidance on lighting fixtures and sort of what we need. You know, if you've got a lighting project, many people are just saying, well, I've got this light and I'm going with that light and that's all I'm doing. And this is some guidance on the fact that, unfortunately, you know, if you've got like you know, like an outdoor driving range and you're changing your lights, we can't pay you dusk till dawn like we pay on most parking lots, because, you know, if you've got a driving range or a sports field, most of the time your lights are turned off at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So we've got a different option that's not going to pay as much, but that would be the option that would fall into. So this is more guidance on saying that, you know, you need to be cognizant of, you know, how the lights operate when it comes to outdoor. Indoor, we have different building types for different buildings. And then non-operational fixtures, once it's over 10%, we have to start reducing the baseline on the project. Because those lights aren't burning, and then when you get your LEDs, those are all going to be burning, and so there's a little bit of a reduction that's required. And we get audited on that a lot. You know, a lot of times if they see something that they don't like, they'll look at the meter data, which, you know, if you have some high wattage fixtures and half of them weren't burning before the project started, you know, they're able to see that. If they go look at, you know, several months of data before the lights were changed to LED, they can see that maybe the reduction that we paid on wasn't as great. And it's oftentimes, if there was a lot of inoperative high wattage fixtures, you know, you'd be able to see that on a parking lot meter or something that only houses the lights in question. So we need non-operative fixtures listed, and this is more just guidance to helping people understand that, as well as controls and whether the space is conditioned. We see a lot of people that'll submit a warehouse that says it's air conditioned, and they get extra savings for that. It's great if they actually have that. It's just most of the time, you know, warehouses are not air conditioned. And so again, we need that to be set correctly so that the incentive is correct. Next slide. Sorry. And so this is more lighting tips, just, you know, building types. You know, often you'll have a warehouse with some office space. We need you to pick one, and I know that's confusing, but basically we need you to pick wherever the predominant savings are coming from. So, you know, if your warehouse is generating $5,000 of incentive and you have, you know, 20 offices, but, you know, there's not much wattage delta being retrofitted, if the bulk of the savings is coming from the warehouse, then your building type for the indoor would be called warehouse. Either way, myself or our program managers can help you or your provider get into the right option on that. And so this is just guidance again on the outdoor lighting and some of the options we have for manufacturing for ones that operate more. They're able to get more of an incentive if they're operating 3 shifts versus 1 shift. And you can go to the next slide. This is sort of what we need. So every LED fixture has to have it has to be DLC or Energy Star qualified. And so we need, this is an example on the right. That's a label that's on the back of the fixture. And so then we need, it's your service provider's job to attach in our system a screenshot from the DLC website that represents that model number. And so this is sort of an example showing, what we would need for this LED. And so if you have 4 other LED model numbers installed on your job, then we would need one of these to represent each one. And that's what I have to have on file when our project gets audited and I have to turn this over. This is what I have to turn over. And if I can't provide that, then every line, every place that this was installed in on that job gets disallowed, and that's not good for us. So this is sort of what's required for each. And so I recommend, when you're ordering fixtures or bidding a job or doing, I'd recommend whoever wins the lighting bid, have them go ahead and provide you up front, a screenshot from DLC to show exactly what fixture they're going to provide you. And I'd even recommend have them provide you a picture of what's on the back of the fixture they're going to provide you to make sure yourself that it matches up with DLC, just so you can be comfortable. We've just seen instances where somebody's told they're getting a DLC or Energy Star qualified fixture, and then when it's all said and done, whatever gets installed doesn't match what DLC has, and so it leads to problems or sometimes us not being able to pay. As always, if you can reach out to us, we can sort of try and help, and the earlier the better. Our goal is to have you be successful and happy with our program. So next slide. And this is just lights that we're not able to pay on. So anything that's not LEG, Energy Star, or DLC, if the LED is not listed on one of those sites, the model number, we're not able to pay on it. We don't pay on plug load or track lighting. So if you have like a hotel room or something like that, most of the time those aren't real worth turning in because a lot of that stuff's plugged in, and so it's ineligible. On the LED tubes, we see a lot of people doing that, but if they're not doing the Type C, and that's DLC qualified as Type C, we're not able to pay on that. And next slide. And this is just a reminder, LEDs. Yeah, next slide. Okay, so HVAC. This is just kind of a 1-slide guidance on our HVAC. And so, like I said, it's pretty simple. We just need, for units under 25 tons, and even some that are above that, we just need an HRI certificate for each model number. And that's, the efficiency, both the full load and the part load efficiency and the cooling capacity are really the only 3 values you need that factor into the calculation besides whatever building type you have. So this is some guidance on that. For chillers, we need basically a submittal sheet, that shows the performance of your chiller, and we need that at HRI conditions. If you need help on that, let us know. We can tell you what the settings need to be, and it's simple. Whoever's selling you the chiller ought to be able to put those inputs in and run the simulation for you, and that those efficiency values help determine what the incentive is. But like I said, we do a lot of chillers, air cooled and water cooled. Feel free to reach out for us if you need help getting estimates. We have estimator calculators on our EEPM site. They're real simple. You can plug in what you have and what you're looking at going to, and it'll estimate an incentive for you. And like I said, I can help, or one of our program managers that are listed at the end of this slide would be happy to help you as well. As I said previously, we also see, a lot of buildings doing water cooled DX. We pay on those, as well as VRF and geothermal and some of the other ones. Next slide. And so this is our program managers. Ron, Kim, Catherine, and Matt are all program managers. And so one of them will get assigned your project. and or can help you understand how to get in the program and navigate. I do the inspections for them, but I also, am on calls and team up with them sometimes to work with people to understand our programs or understand their unique situations on their projects. Paul is our manager, and then there's the number for the EPM help desk. Charles is the guy named Charles is the one who's at the EPM help desk, and he helps with getting signed up and usernames and passwords and that sort of stuff. But we're all here to help you. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out or, contact us in the future with projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Graham. I think that this was super helpful, having Carly, Mindy, and Graham come in and have this conversation with us. And, this is to provide some basic information. Again, if you need more details, you can reach out to myself, Carly, Mindy, or Graham to get more updated information or more details. I wanted to thank the speakers. We always appreciate our members, and they're so valuable. We appreciate you taking the time to go through some of these programs and highlighting and giving us more details on it, and to be open for discussion and for calls. I want to thank everyone who attended today. I really do appreciate you taking the time and supporting the Dallas 2030 district. I'm going to turn it over for some questions if anybody has any.
Graham, I'm curious on where you see the incentives growing most. Is there any regions that are doing more? Is it like downtown, uptown? Is there any types of like customer classes? Just curious. Like the incentives are seeming to be fairly well subscribed from Oncor. I'm just kind of curious if you have some knowledge or some similarities and if there's any groups or commonalities that are really tapping into the incentives. I just was curious about that.
Oh yeah, that's a great question. To answer your question, we have what's called the 5 metro counties, and so that's Dallas, Tarrant, Denton, Collin, and Rockwall. And so anything outside that is considered non-metro. And so non-metro, there's actually a 15% adder. So like our calculators should add in a 15% adder. For instance, if you do a project where you're going to get $100,000 incentive in one of the metro counties, the calculator would give you $115,000 if you were in any other county in our territory. So, if you're down in Central Texas.
Why is that? Is that a fuel surcharge, or what is that? Losses?
It was to stimulate, unfortunately. So I guess where I was going with that is most of our participation is in DFW in the 5 metro counties.
Oh.
And so they're trying to stimulate, projects from out in Midland and Big Spring and Tyler and Nacogdoches and Lufkin. We've got a really big territory, but to answer your question, we'd like to have more projects from Lufkin and Temple and Brown Rock and all that. So that's to try and incentivize service providers or projects from those areas. And it seems like most a lot of the people participating are here in DFW. So that's that. But then also to answer your question, I think lighting, I think the measures with the best payback are lighting and the VFDs that I mentioned. We're never allowed to pay more than 50% of your project cost, with our incentive. And we don't often see that happening, but I feel like payback wise, I feel like I can convince somebody that lighting and putting a VFD on a constant speed motor, those are two projects that our incentive, really helps get that payback down under 3 years, and oftentimes, a year and a half or whatever it is. And so, I'm passionate about trying to help people understand the value of doing that. Sadly, some of our other measures, aren't quite as good when it comes to payback that I've seen, and so that might be keeping people from participating. I think a lot of it is just maybe we haven't. We need to do a better job of getting the word out there on what we're offering, especially on some of these new measures. But as far as lighting goes, I think that we see a lot of outdoor lighting. And I think the reason on that is just where the most of the wattage delta is. So, you've got a lot of 1,000-watt metal halides and 400-watt metal halides and high wattage fixtures that are coming, significantly down with LEDs.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's, I'd say, probably 50% of our lighting projects are that. And they're pretty easy and cut and dry, because, you've got a parking lot and you're getting rid of, some high wattage fixtures, going back with an LED, and, customers are happy because they got good security with the new lighting, and they've got, low wattage and usually a good warranty and all that. And so it just seems like everybody's happy with these outdoor lighting projects. And I feel like we see that's probably the thing we see most. But again, I think it's because it's probably got a good payback with the wattage delta. Whereas, sadly, a building that already has 2 lamp T8 fixtures, that's only pulling about 58 watts. And in a hallway or classrooms or whatever, if they have 2 lamps in there. And so, you go back with a good looking LED fixture, unfortunately, our incentive's not going to be great on that portion of the project, just because, you're going from 58 watts down to, say 35 or something, which is good. It's just that the delta we're going to look at there is that's only, whatever it is, 15 watt delta or 12 watt delta. And so, it's just, that's my opinion. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's sort of what I'm seeing.
No, that's actually very helpful. It's interesting to know which projects get the biggest traction, so especially since you've done a lot of the inspections. Also sounds like you guys have really streamlined a lot of the approvals and review in terms of getting those projects done. You were saying some of the inspections have got a lot simpler too. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing.
We tried to do that. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of people that we appreciate. They try and understand what's needed, and we'll have a call with them, and they'll check in, and they're trying to follow our guidance. It's just that we do have some people, it seems like more so from out of state, that are just kind of like, here it is, this is all I'm going to do, just give us the money. And unfortunately, a lot of times that doesn't end up as well. And sadly, the customers suffer too. And we don't like that, because they're our customer too. And so anyways, but the earlier you can get with us on what you have and what might be required, we'd be happy to try and help, since that's our job. And I guess the only thing I'd say also, you mentioned downtown. We do see a lot of parking garages downtown. And I know a lot of them have already been changed to LED, but that's always a good project. That's fairly simple. You're only dealing with a couple fixture types, and to me, that's a pretty easy project through our program. As long as somebody's going to physically go on site and do the audit and kind of show us around. As long as you can do that, and like I said, the local providers seem to do a better job of that. But we see a lot of those downtown parking garage projects, as well as cooling projects.
Graham, I have, somebody is asking this question about timelines and deadlines. I don't know. I don't think you mentioned anything. Is it first come, first serve? Are there any deadlines for some of these incentives that you're providing? I know it's always sooner the better, but just wanted to get your take on that.
That's a good question. Yes, our program opened in mid-December. We usually close it in late November, usually November 19th to 25th timeframe, but it doesn't mean that you don't get paid. So all you have to do is let us know. Usually we'd like to know by late September that you need to roll that over, that you're thinking that you're not going to finish by November 25th. And all we do is we roll it over to the next year. Earlier I mentioned that we had 1.2 million in rollovers, and that's just projects that didn't finish by our November 25th deadline. They're still going to get the same amount of money. Nothing changes. It's just that helps us to move the money off their project, knowing that, hey, we're not going to spend that this year, and then have that available for other projects. And so we like to know that by late September, so that we still have 2 months to try and spend that money on other projects that will finish this year. I've never seen our program run out of money, at least in the last, I've been at Oncor for almost 9 years now. I've never seen it run out of money. We always can move money from other programs. So I think I had a little note about that in our slide, but yeah, we often, if commercial solar is not doing as well, or if some of the other commercial programs we have are not doing as well, we can move that money into the standard offer program. We're not allowed to move residential money in, but we can get pretty creative. So I've never seen it be a problem. Even when there's been a few years where we are pretty full towards the end of the year. We're always able to accommodate somebody's project and get creative on taking it and paying them that year, or getting them to agree that they can get paid in mid-January. And many times they're fine with that. So just, yeah, there's really no nothing to be worried about. If you have a project that you're not even considering till this fall, that's certainly a good project, and we can work with you. So just feel free to reach out to us, and we will accommodate getting that in and getting you your incentive.
There is a question in the chat. Are the incentives available for government buildings and parking lot work?
Yes, as long as they're, as long as they have an Oncor meter and they're a customer of ours. Yes, we do, city buildings and police stations and fire stations and that type of stuff. So yes, they're available.
Great. I don't think there are any more questions. If not, you can always reach out to Graham and to the COG for any questions that you may have. Maybe it's more specific, or you just feel more comfortable talking one-on-one. I'm here too if you want to run any questions through myself. Hopefully by Monday, I'll send out the link for our YouTube channel, so you can rewatch this or go through anything if you'd like, or pass it along. I wanted to thank everybody and all the information as well that was in this session. I can also send over the slide deck if everyone's okay with that. Graham, Mindy, and Carly, are you guys okay with me sending that out as a PDF? Great, because
Yes.
you can click on those links and go to the places you want to learn more information about, and that contact information. Again, I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. I know some people had to drop off, they had other meetings, but I really do appreciate it. And looking forward to our next session. Hopefully it's going to be in person. It's going to be about the IRA. And then we're also going to have a session on the future of energy here in Dallas. So hopefully I'll get those details out to you as well, and you can join us for our upcoming sessions. Just really excited for 2023 and how we're really pushing forward, in this new normal, and just really excited that that was kind of addressed through the COG as well as, with Graham over at Oncor. But again, any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to get those answered. And again, thank you so much.